This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with guitarist Marty Friedman. If I knew absolutely nothing about Marty Friedman, how would you describe your music to me?
Do you know nothing about Marty Friedman?
If I knew nothing about him.
That's the hardest question. Um,
It stumps a few
I don't
people.
know. Hopefully, I'm very, very drawn to melodies, and my whole musical being is based around presenting melodies in an interpretation in such a way that expresses the way I feel about those melodies, and everything is based around melodies.
Absolutely. And for the most part, you're an instrumental musician at this point in your career. And your latest album is called Drama. It comes out on May 17th, which it's already out where you're at. It comes out tomorrow where I'm at through Frontiers Music. I think we could also call your music dramatic. That's kind of how I felt through listening to this album. Is that kind of why you named it as such?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of like a panacea to dramatic periods in people's lives. In my life specifically, I find that like when things get really dramatic and high tension, high stress, I tend to go to some of my favorite artists, kind of go-to artists that have certain songs or pieces of music that I know that when I go listen to them, it's gonna kind of make me feel better when it just seems like nothing is gonna work, but these songs always work. I just wanted to do the exact same thing for other people. And if I can kind of fill that description to listeners out there for their own purposes, that would be my ultimate goal. Is like when people are really feeling like, really, really hard times, and the only thing that helps you feel better is music. If they were to go to my album, or specifically this drama album, and it would kind of make them feel better, then I've done my job.
Had you been working on drama for a long period of time? It's been about 7 years since your last proper studio album.
Well, I've been really working on it for much longer than that, actually. It's kind of an album that I've been threatening to do forever. As most people know me as this um, heavy metal guitarist type, or loud type of guitarist type, but of course I have a romantic orchestral side to me, a sappy side, if you will, and I did a couple albums like that a long time ago, and they seem to be maybe my most requested, or the best. They've gone over really, really well, but I just never really wanted to revisit the past and copy something I've already done. But it's always been in my mind to do another album like that, in the kind of, I don't want to say quieter, because it's really not quieter, but just not the aggressive metal in your face, mind blowing, face melting solos type of thing. Um, just more of a thematic, tear jerkers, and hopefully evoke some emotions and chills and goosebumps and that kind of stuff. So I've been kind of thinking about it and threatening to do it anytime people ask me that when I'm going to do an album like this, and finally it happened. So I'm very happy to announce that.
When it comes to composing the material, do you have any set methods that you use? I had interviewed Joe Satriani. He says he comes up with a story, and then the music comes from the story that he has in his head.
Not really. I have a different method, so to speak, for just about every song. There's no real pattern. Usually, everything starts with like a very basic germ of a melody. And if I really like the melody that I'm starting with, the song kind of writes itself in such a way to bolster that melody and kind of like almost like, in Broadway music, sometimes they have the same theme. It happens several times within the show. Each time is interpreted differently. One time it's up tempo and happy, one time it's sad, played with a one lone violin or something, and the other time it's very extravagant with the full orchestra or whatever. Um, if I really commit to a melody, it kind of writes itself and builds into something like that. But I also like to try things I've never done before. Like for example, on a song Mirage, I wrote the entire back half of it based on a drum improvisation. I had my drummer, Greg Bissonette, who's just a wizard. I told him this one direction. All I told him was to do is stay in this tempo and start from silence and slowly and very gradually build up to a full crescendo of noise. That's all I asked him to do. Gave him about 3 minutes to do that. And he did it so well that I just wrote music around his drums. And I never did anything like that before. And the worst that could happen is it could suck and I could throw it away. But it turned out to be a wonderful, fresh way to write a piece of music. So there's no real set rules.
One of the singles you released ahead of the album's release was Illumination. If you want to kind of tell me how that song came together for you.
Well, that was not really going to be the first single on the record. Um, but the people around me, the people in the record company and the people I work with kind of all unanimously thought that would be the best first impression. Um, I am, it's like having kids, you don't, what do you call it? Have preference to one kid over another one. To me, they were all absolutely equal as far as the amount of satisfaction I had, the amount of effort I put into everything, and the amount of commitment to each piece of music was exactly the same. So it was really um, kind of puzzling to me why everybody picked up on that song. This should be the first single. This should be the first impression of the album. You could have said the same thing about any song, and I would have been equally um, cool with it. But I don't know what it is about that song. I don't know what it is.
We'll leave it to the label heads, right?
Right.
You have one vocal track. Well, you have two, but you have one vocal track on here. It's the current single, Dead of Winter, featuring vocals by Chris Brooks, Like a Storm. How'd you end up hooking up with Chris?
Well, Chris, I met him when I played in Las Vegas on my own tour. I think it was in 2023, and we just hit it off. And I'm a fan of his band, and I know the family of his drummer very well. And so we just hit it off, and it was kind of in the back of my mind that hopefully we could do some kind of project together. And then when I started working on the music for Dead of Winter, he was like the first guy I thought of to send it over to see what he comes up with if he was interested in doing it. And he just hit a home run in so many ways. I mean, obviously his vocals are fantastic, but the lyrics really mean something to a lot of people. And that's one thing that I'm very, very deficient in. I couldn't write a lyric to save my life. Um, it's really funny. I've never ever had the talent to write a lyric. And just talking about this now reminds me of when I was in Megadeth, kind of in the early years of Megadeth. Dave Mustaine comes to me, says, "Dude, you should try to write some lyrics for us. Come to the party with some lyrics." And I'm like, "Wow, that was really nice of him to ask me to do that." And then I came up with some lyrics, and he says, "Maybe you should stick to playing guitar." And And I did just that. It's completely foreign to me, and I just never had that chromosome, so to speak. But Chris wrote lyrics to the song "Dead of Winter," and so many people reacted to it so well that a video was born from it, and it was really the type of thing where the ta- the director of the video and the staff of the video, the production company, they did it completely out of a labor of love. They sought me out because they heard the song and the lyrics moved them that much, and really made it an easy process to do this video. And kind of to shorten the meaning of the lyrics, it's a very simple lyric, but it means a lot to a lot of people who are having, the very understandable problems that arose from being stuck in the pandemic and not having the social abilities to surround yourself with a lot of friends or people that can help you, and feeling alone. And it's very, very common, especially with young people that um, had their best social years of their life taken away from them. If you think about it, in junior high and high school, that is the social centerpiece of your entire life. And to be stuck in your house, sitting on the internet, doing whatever, chatting with, you know, other people who are stuck, it's just such a sad thing compared to what high school and junior high school life should be. So understandably, a lot of people have, become depressed and become kind of antisocial because of it. And the simple lyrics to Dead of Winter is just basically um, how that if you can just be a friend to someone, or if you can be a boyfriend or a girlfriend to someone, and understand their problems and be there for them. It's just a very simple. It's kind of almost cliche, but if you're listening to that when you're actually in that state of mind, those words really ring strong. So I'm just so glad that Chris hit such a home run with those lyrics.
Sometimes with a project like this that bears the artist's name alone, the backing band gets a little lost in the shuffle. You mentioned Greg Bissonette before on drums, a fantastic drummer that I think a lot of people here in the US are familiar with. Why don't you tell me about the rest of the members of your band?
Yeah, I'm a big guy on casting. What I mean by casting is, for each song, you choose the people who fit that song perfectly. They might not fit a different song. For a different song, you'll cast a different player of this instrument or that instrument. Sometimes in the same song, you'll have more than one person playing the same instrument. For example, the song Dead of Winter, there's two different people playing piano because their styles are different. And one person's style fits one thing, one fits another thing. I want a specialist. It's like going to a doctor. If you have a foot problem, you don't go to a heart surgeon. So I learned this maybe 10, 15 years ago, that just hiring a bunch of super talented musicians is not enough. You got to cherry pick people for each part. And when you do that, you completely stay true to exactly what you're intending to do. So with that said, a lot of the bass on the album was played by Waka Zaimong, who is in my touring band, and she's a monster. But even on this record, there's some songs that there was a different bassist who was um, more suitable for the song. A guy named Or Lubianiker, who is in an Israeli band called Steroid Puppets that are just insane. And he was more suited for the bass playing on the song Mirage. And like I said, there's a couple different keyboard players and synth players. And yeah, I urge everybody to look closely at the members on the record because they're very important because they're all specialists.
You made a couple of runs through the US in 2023 and earlier in 2024. You were part of a bill with Queensryche and Trauma, which I saw you on for the first time as a solo artist, and you opened for John 5 on a few gigs. How do you think everything went? From what I understand, it was kind of like a return to the US for you.
Well, I'm glad you got to see one of those shows. That was a wonderful tour because for two of the members in my band, it was their first time in America. So it was wonderful to see touring America through their eyes and kind of not guide them through it, but just kind of be the reason that they were seeing America for the first time on tour. And it was just a fantastic thing because it was our first time out of Japan playing live after the pandemic. So the audiences were just very excited to be there, and there was a lot of anticipation to see us because we'd come all the way from Japan, hadn't been in America for years, and it was just a wonderful intersection of great energy. And the John 5 thing we did this year was very short tour, but it was also just a great thing, and we just like to keep touring everywhere because we plan to do a lot of touring after drama. So we did a few shows in America, and I just got back from a couple festivals in Asia, and we're playing in Tokyo in a few weeks and playing a lot, gearing up to whatever big touring plans that I will be announcing hopefully soon for the rest of the world.
How much of the material from Drama do you think you'll be working into your set lists going forward?
As of right now, the first show is going to be in Tokyo on June 5th, and that's the first time we're really going to roll out a bunch of new drama songs. I played one show in Okinawa, which was kind of a guest bill where I played three new drama songs, kind of unplugged. It was just me and a piano player doing it. It was very suitable because the music is very ballad oriented. But once we play in Tokyo, and we're going to roll out like maybe half of the entire drama record, we're going to see how that goes, and then decide how much drama stuff we're going to play in the rest of the world.
This is your Drama is your first album for Frontiers Music. How did you end up signing the deal with them?
You know, it's a great question that I'm kind of struggling to remember because I don't know if it was through my manager or my lawyer that several different record companies were interested in releasing the record because I'd recorded it and I owned it and I had planned to release it in Japan, and obviously license it to the rest of the world so we could have a simultaneous release. When you live in Japan this long, you can't say L's and R's anymore. Simultaneous. That's a tough one. Um, yeah, so I'm sure it came from someone on my team, and several record companies expressed interest in the record, thankfully. And Frontiers was the most enthusiastic and have been doing a fantastic job so far. So I'm really happy we made the choice and they took the chance on me, and looking forward to working with them.
You've been living in Japan since 2003. You do a lot of your releases over there, you just mentioned. When did you first visit Japan?
First time I went to Japan, I was in a band called Cacophony. And before Cacophony toured in Japan, I did a short promo trip, like a week of promotion in Japan. And from that trip, I was just completely blown away and just hooked on the place. It was just like being on another planet, and a very musical place and a very deep place. There's just endless things to get interested in. And so ever since then, I kept trying to go back for more work. And during Megadeth, I was always the one who volunteered to do the promo tours there and promo trips, and of course the concert tours, but also private. And from the first time, it was just I knew there was some kind of connection with me, but I didn't know what it was at the time, really.
Well, from what I understand, in Japan, when you talk about the music over there, that instrumental music is big within their culture. I watched a documentary on the Ventures. The Ventures actually had a second career going over into Japan because their style of instrumental guitar surf rock was kind of tied into Japanese culture and music.
Interesting observation. Yes, instrumental music is true popular for that reason, and another reason is there's no lyrics. And Japanese people very rarely speak English. But one thing that is fantastic about the Japanese people that I wish other countries would adapt is they listen to music regardless of the language. They listen to music from all cultures, all countries, um, regardless of not knowing the language. I can't imagine growing up in America and then hearing a song in Italian and it having it be something that's widely listened to. Now, growing up, occasionally there might be a novelty song, like in the 60s, there was a French song called Dominique that was a hit. And there was also a novelty of they called it Sukiyaki in America, the song by Q Sakamoto, Ue Muita Ruko, which is a very famous Japanese song. By some fluke, it became a hit in America. But in Japan, um, it's a very musical culture. So there's a big hunger for all kinds of music. But I think the key to music in Japan is it must be melody based. If it's completely lyric based, it's going to be lost on the Japanese public. But boy, do they like a melody. And there's always room for music with melodies in Japan. And that's kind of a tie into my music. It's very melody based, so it's a nice relationship.
So once you moved over to Japan and was there for the amount of time you've been there, about 20 years, uh, had it had the culture and the music changed the way you approach playing the guitar?
Oh, certainly. Any experience changes the way I create music and play my instrument. Even if I go, like for example, I was in Jakarta last week, and just being surrounded by the music there influenced me in some way, and hearing motifs from their culture. And actually, I wrote a very detailed segment. I have an autobiography coming out, and I wrote about this exact thing where it's kind of every artist's responsibility to soak up the sounds and the experience of wherever you wind up going, whether that be Indiana or whether it be Jakarta or Singapore or Australia or wherever. There's very unique sounds different from where you grew up with. And if you can ultimately soak up that what you particularly like about the sounds of the places you're lucky enough to visit in your life, then eventually your um the music that you make will clearly represent you and your unique experiences that no one else has. And people ask me this type of thing all the time. So in the autobiography, I had to address this with a very clear with a big clarity because I find it very important. A lot of people say, well, how do you learn how to play these scales and how do you play fast and how do you play this song and that song? And that's all good. But to really get to the heart of why any person is an artist, you want to feel like when you're listening it to any artist, you're feeling him pour out his own unique life experiences to you as a listener. And that has little to nothing to do with developing your finger dexterity or whatever. So I did address that, and I think I probably addressed it better than I did to you just now. But yeah, hopefully when the book comes out, people will be interested in hearing about that.
Since you brought it up, your autobiography is called Dreaming Japanese. Its due date is December 3rd, the Permuted Press. Uh, from what I understand, you're pretty much a private guy. So are you putting it all out there with this autobiography?
Yeah, I mean, the entire criteria of the book was things that I've never said in the media, things that I couldn't say in the media, private things, and all of the inner interpersonal relationships in all of the bands that I've been in, all of the projects I've worked on, and the it's almost like a spy, like double agent look into the Japanese music business and the Japanese entertainment industry because I came in completely as a foreigner, but I'm working within that industry as someone who is in Japan, lives in Japan, speaks Japanese, works on the Japanese projects. So I can kind of report to the rest of the world what it's really like from an American's perspective, which I think the publishers of the book found quite fascinating. And I really drew that to a complete conclusion. But it's basically everything that no one knows about me. So if you're slightly interested, hopefully you will get a lot of very unexpected information out of it.
You've appeared on over 900 TV shows, movies, commercials. You've done opening ceremonies in Japan. You were appointed the ambassador of Japan Heritage by the Japanese government. Can you walk down the streets of Japan without being recognized?
Um, it depends. If I put my hair up and I wear a mask, I can pretty much get away with it most of the time. But if I look like I normally do, I live right in the heart of downtown. I live in Shinjuku, Tokyo, which is it's like I guess the Manhattan of New York. There's people everywhere, so it's kind of I would stand out anyway, but yeah, I would probably get noticed. I don't mind being noticed at all. I don't have a problem with that. But when it's really crowded and I just put my hair up and wear a mask and I'm usually fine.
Not a bad problem to have either way, right?
Not a terrible problem. No.
Well, Marty, those are all the questions I have for you today. The new album, Drama, it's out May 17th through Frontiers Music. Fantastic record. I wish you the best with it. And I want to thank you for speaking with knac.com tonight to tell us more about it.
Thank you very much, George. KNAC has been there for a lot of cool stuff that and I always appreciate the support. So thank you, George, and thank you, KNAC, and hopefully see you live really soon.